My name is Ben Jeffries, and I'm the CEO of Influencer.com. And our mission at Influencer is very simple. It's to move the marketing industry forward by humanizing brands. And honestly, I think that mission has mattered more than ever right now, because we're living in an era where everyone in this world is competing for attention. Every brand is fighting to make sure that they're relevant, and the feed is moving faster than ever. But the uncomfortable truth is that most brand storytelling is ignored, not because the work is bad, but just because people need to feel something. And the best stories that people feel, made sure I'd made my introduction a little bit longer just so that, sorry. And today is very much about storytelling that wins culture. So I'm really lucky to be joined by 4 brilliant leaders within the industry, each coming at this from a very different perspective. We have Sara Brooks from BetterHelp, bringing the lens of trust, vulnerability, and storytelling in probably one of the most intimate categories in the world of mental health. We have Behnaz, SVP of Marketing at Marriott, bringing the lens of global brand building, hospitality, and creating experiences that mean something across culture. We have Sara, SVP of the salty category at Mars, who's bringing the lens of iconic consumer brands, entertainment, and the kind of work that people love talking about. And one of my personal favorites, the Pop-Tart Bowl. And we've got Dara, the CMO of Autodesk, who's bringing the lens of creativity and innovation, helping tell stories of people designing, building, and imagining the world around us. So 4 very different perspectives, but one shared topic here. How do we create a series here of things that resonate? So Sara Brooks, I'd love to go to you first, if that's okay.
Sounds great.
Perfect. I think, look, BetterHelp is sitting at a really interesting intersection of growth, brand, and trust. And you're making therapy and mental health conversations more accessible in a category that has to be handled with real care. What separates storytelling in your perspective that simply raises awareness from storytelling that genuinely creates emotion, that leads to connections and builds community?
Thank you for having me. I was 1 hour early at the wrong stage. So sorry for the late entry here, and I'm a little bit dewy. So if you haven't heard of BetterHelp, we're the world's largest online therapy platform. We've helped over 6 million people over the past 10 years, and we have 30,000 licensed therapists, and we connect you with the right person for you so that you can do the hard work in therapy. When I think about storytelling, especially for the mental health category, obviously trust is paramount. Right? For all of our brands, for brands everywhere, especially when it comes to mental health. This is your own, your inner thoughts, your innermost thoughts. We're asking you some really intense questions so that we can get you to the right therapist for you. So when we're thinking about branding, when we're thinking about marketing, we're thinking about how do we tell stories that really connect with people to, one, normalize seeking help. So one of the things that we seek to understand is what's getting in the way of people's mental wellness, what's keeping them from starting therapy. And we commissioned a State of Stigma report, and we found that 85% of people worldwide say that getting support for your mental health is a good thing. That checks out, right? Of course, it's a good thing. But here's the paradox. 74% of people say that when it comes to themselves, they fear what society will think of them if they pursue therapy. And so that's really powerful, and that's a motive in our storytelling. We think about how do we break down those barriers. For better or worse, mental health is part of the cultural zeitgeist. It's in the conversation. And so we seek to join conversations where this is already a topic. So for example, sports, entertainment. And we think about ways that we can, of course, join cultural conversations, but do so with clinical credibility. So always leading with that angle. I'll share one little story and then pass it off to my colleagues here. But we submitted a lion for the very first time. We were shortlisted in the health and wellness category yesterday. And we worked with global superstar Louis Capaldi, who had a very public mental breakdown. 2 years later, he came back to Glastonbury, the very same stage where he had a public breakdown. And he released a new song, came back to his fans, And the next week, he announced that therapy was the #1 reason why he was still able to be a performer, and announced a partnership with us where together we gave away 734,000 hours of therapy, representing 1,000 hours for every day he was out of the public eye. Really, again, Lewis's story, us behind it, and supporting, helping people take that first action.
I absolutely love that. I think having a story, always helps to make it resonate with everyone and really provide that emotional connection. And obviously that Glastonbury story just is absolutely beautiful. And I think having people talk openly about therapy is really important. Behnaz, coming to you next. Marriott obviously operates at a huge global scale. It's one of my favorite parts about traveling the world, always checking first on Marriott where I can book. But travel is obviously increasingly becoming more personal. And a hotel stay can mean business, it can mean family, it can mean escape, a celebration, and it all depends on the person, the culture, and the moment. How do you create brand storytelling that feels globally consistent while remaining locally relevant and emotionally resonant?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's a challenge we face every day. Being, world's largest hospitality company, we have over 10,000 properties in 146 countries with over 250 million members. So to get that level of personalized attention and care and connectivity is definitely a brand challenge we look at all the time. I actually want to start out by just taking a pulse from the room. I know there's a lot going on in here, but I just want to know, how many Bonvoy members do I have in the room right now? All right.
Big up.
And I thank you, first of all, for your business and your loyalty. And one of the things that I find that travel in particular is one of the things that really connects people around the world. There's shared common language, there's shared experiences, there's the human experiences that we all really meaningfully connect to, even if there are cultural nuances. So as a global brand, in order for us to be able to really connect with audiences around the world, because as you said, a specific customer could be coming to our hotels because they're traveling for work, like many of you are here today, but then going on to probably vacation with your families the week after or the week prior. So at any given point in time, you're in the market for multiple trip purposes, and how we can connect with you on that journey becomes a really point of differentiation. So one of the reasons that we are here actually is we have been launching our Riot Media Network last year at Cannes, which allows us to personalize storytelling at scale across all of our hotel rooms. We have over 500 attributes about our customers, because customers want to tell us things that they love, whether it's their preference on their favorite beverage, whether they are telling us about destinations that they love, or the trip purposes that they're on. So the more we can personalize that experience for you, whether it's in the room or along your journey, the more we can have that connection with you as your lifelong travel partner. Now, the one piece about global and local, I will say it's a constant balance that we work with our continent teams. We have an incredible network of marketers around the world, and the connection of global to local only works if you have local to global connectivity as well. And we all work as one team to be able to connect to our consumer.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. And I certainly feel it wherever I travel in the world. When I stay at a Marriott, I feel the Marriott brand always come through in that consistency. And obviously as a Bonvoy member as well, I suppose getting invited to various experiences. I mean, even here having Jamie Oliver, Eileen Gu as well, it's incredible people here. It obviously matters a lot. So
it's true. We love to connect people to the places and passions that they love. And I think that is essentially what gets the loyalties, that people really appreciate that it is a relationship that they're building with us.
Absolutely. And Dara, I want to bring you in here. Autodesk is such an interesting business because the work your customers create touches almost every part of the world around us, from buildings and products to entertainment and design. So the story isn't really just about the tech. A lot of it is about the creativity, the possibility, and what people can really make with it. How do you make sure that with innovation-led storytelling, make it actually resonate emotionally with broader audiences?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, nobody really cares about what you want to say. They care about their own lives. They care about their own, what is going on with them. So what matters most to them is them. And that's what we focus on. We focus on making sure our audiences feel seen and we connect to how we're impacting their lives. So for example, our technology was used in the restoration of Notre Dame. That was really interesting to a lot of people because Notre Dame is this iconic cathedral. We are in France, and it's just something that means so much to people all around the world. People remember when they went to Paris with their loved one, or maybe it's an ex that they're having nostalgic feelings about. Or people remember Notre Dame as this iconic place where maybe they've had their first communion or they've shared prayer. It means so much to people. So instead of making ourselves the story, we're software, B2B technology software. I don't know about you, but I don't think you came here to hear me talk about our tech stack, okay? You came here to experience and understand what we can do for you. And that is exactly what we do. We lean and make our customers the hero. We're Tree Paine, they're Taylor Swift.
I absolutely love that. But I mean, it is really interesting because I saw some things on LinkedIn earlier where people were questioning, has Cannes Lions become a tech conference? But it's not. It's about celebrating the creativity, and that's exactly what you've just spoken to.
That's exactly what it's about. But it's interesting because I feel like I've been coming to Cannes. I've been doing this a long time, okay? And I remember when I came to Cannes and it was about the creatives and the marketing, and now I come and I'm like, what is this? Like, what is going on? I think I'm like, can we talk about the human ingenuity? If I have to have one more conversation about AI, y'all, I'm done.
Well, fortunately, none of my questions have the phrase AI in there, so we're all good. I suppose, touching on that human side, the best stories are no longer just watched, right? The best stories are truly participated in. And it's when people are able to share them, comment on them, remix them, debate them, make them their own, right? And I think storytelling that stops being a campaign is very much the one that starts being culture when it's able to do all of those things. So, Sara, I think this is a really exciting place to bring you in here because, as I mentioned earlier, the Pop-Tarts Bowl campaign became one of the most talked about campaigns from brand as a moment that embraced entertainment, but also participation as well. So what did the experience really teach you about creating stories that people, actively want to engage with and share?
Yeah, that's great. And I think that is a great case study on creativity first and really the power of ingenuity on a brand. I think one of the key learnings on that is it starts with just an incredible understanding of your brand and understanding, as you said, of what consumers are interested in about your brand. Pop-Tarts, and just a quick kind of insight on Pop-Tarts. Pop-Tarts is a brand that was made to defy conventions. That's what it stood for. It was created as a hack of toasted jam. So we knew that we had to approach every experience in a way that wasn't good. It was crazy good. That's been the tagline of the brand forever. And I think something that we took very, very seriously as a team when we talked about the ball and when we talked about really what we could do in football, in a lot of ways, Pop-Tart doesn't belong in football. And that was a reality that we sort of said, yes, this is a breakfast brand. This is a hack of toast and jam, but we can create an experience here that just like the brand can defy conventions. And so I think the two learnings are start with something that is completely true of the brand, hold that very, very dear, and then let the power of creativity really take it to incredible heights, and follow the consumer conversation in terms of all of the incredible ways that they're experiencing the brand, and let that and really harness that creativity to tell a story that's very sticky, that's very memorable.
I think the fact that you were able to turn it from a breakfast into a snack. I mean, yeah. I can say as a consumer that the whole of the Office influencer was over the moon because they're completely stocked in there. Everyone loves strawberry sensation as well, so it's all great. But I mean, look, you've done an incredible job and you've tapped into that huge cultural moment, which really does create that experience.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think we tapped into basically the incredible, we put the food on display. The food is crazy good. It's been crazy good forever. To have it through the lens of an edible mascot that put that in incredible display in a way that really defied creativity was just an example of taking a brand to new heights. And a lot of the people who worked on it are here. So that is always fun to talk about it in front of this group.
What a celebration to all of you in the room who did that as well. And Sarah Brooks, just coming back to you, I want to come back and talk more about like responsibility, right? So not every brand can or should jump into every conversation. I think that's a really important thing because consumers increasingly expect brands to contribute positively to conversations about well-being, identity, and belonging, but they can also spot performative storytelling a mile off. How do you approach storytelling in a way that feels helpful, authentic, rather than obviously performative?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it comes back to Dara, what you said. I would say people don't join campaigns, they join conversations, right? So we have a simple framework of when we're going to join a conversation or when we're going to create a campaign. Does it increase access? Does it bring down stigma? And does it build trust? If those three things are true, game on. Let's go and let's move quickly. And let's figure out, how do we show up in this conversation? There are a lot of very public moments where we don't want to be there right at that moment announcing, that we're partnering and we're going to work on therapy together. It's about timing, right? So coming back to that Lewis example, Lewis went away. He did therapy for 2 years and then came back and wanted to share what did that experience mean to him and share it with other people. So again, coming back to those three, what's true for your brand? Does the brand belong here? And then how do you actually show up in that conversation? So not just saying, yeah, this is good, BetterHelp, brought to you by BetterHelp, but actually working with our clinicians, showing that clinical expertise to say, why did this work? How many other people does this impact, right? But really bringing it back down to the science. Again, health, right? Bringing it back down to the science. How do you build that trust while remaining culturally credible?
I love that recurring theme. People don't join campaigns, people join conversations. It's very, very true. And Behnaz, that feels like a really nice segue into you, because I think your industry has always been about experience and memories, but the experiences that have often been shared and discovered often before someone's even never checked into the hotel, right? I'm curious, obviously coming from the lens of an influencer marketing company, but how has the rise of creators and social sharing changed the way Marriott thinks about storytelling and in particular guest engagement?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. When people think of Marriott as a company, they often think about us because we're a trusted company, right? They trust us for the consistency, they trust us for the experience. And when we think about how we want to participate in people's lives, we are really in the business of people's lives. We're not really, yes, we sell hotels. You come and you stay at our hotels when you have things going on. But ultimately, it's the people that make all of the difference, whether it's the associates who are working around the property to bring every single experience, the smallest of moments to the biggest of moments to life, or it's our guests who are celebrating milestones or really difficult times in our properties as well, right? You have the highs and the lows. You have baby moons and weddings, to pitching your first business, to going and playing team sports, whether you win or you lose. So life is happening in our properties all the time. And we want to be the stage and the platform in which we bring these stories to life. And we essentially give you the platform to share your stories. Going back to what you said, Dara, it's really about them. It's not about us. We are the backdrop to your life happening. Now, when we think about trust, and I know you said you weren't going to talk about AI, but I think in this evolving stage of AI where trust signals are really what's going to be cutting through those platforms, it's not enough just for us to be telling your stories. We need many people to be talking about those stories and sharing those stories across that ecosystem. So the way that we think of creators and partnering with creators, first of all, it's just another way of being able to add that amplification and authenticity, because ultimately consumers are going to trust their stories more than even trusting our stories. It's much more authentic. It's a lived experience. And so it's essentially just an extension of that. And so we really see it as a very natural part of how we engage with audiences today, because it's not a one-way conversation. It really is about being in community and talking and sharing those experiences that connect.
I love that. I think, TikTok a few years ago came out with a slogan, which was "Don't make ads, make TikToks." And I think more recently, one thing that we've felt when speaking to brands is it's "Don't make ads, make proof." And it's proof, seeing it firsthand from creators who are able to show that trusted experience, like you've just put it. So I think that's a really nice way of us then segueing more to talking about like the algorithm era and how creativity very much lives there. And I appreciate it's a tension that every marketer has to live with. I think we have more data than ever out there. We've got more signals, more optimizations, more performance insights. But on the other hand, if we all optimize for everything the same, using the same hooks, the same formats, the same best practices, the same playbooks, the irony is that culture will rarely be created by best practices. And culture is usually something that feels a little bit different. It feels a little bit risky. So Dara, I'd love to come to you here because you've led marketing organizations across both B2B and consumer brands, which is awesome. And in a world where increasingly we are driven by algorithms and performance metrics, how do you protect that creativity and bold storytelling from becoming just optimized?
So I think something that's really important that every marketer needs to remember is marketing is art and science. So that means you follow facts and feelings. Yes, feelings, gut instincts. We are tastemakers. In fact, I think this is actually the golden age for marketers and creatives who have excellent taste, master the AI technology and the different tools, know how to use it, are comfortable, but also know when not to use it and have the discernment to know when not to. LinkedIn. Over half of the posts on LinkedIn are now AI generated. In fact, the other day, I laughed so loud. In fact, my team were tired because I kept sending it to them. I said, if I ever see this, y'all are getting a call from me. And you're not going to like that. Nobody wants that 6 a.m. call when I'm driving back from the gym. And it is because this person was mocking AI slop, and their post was AI slop. Make it make sense. Like, we can't have that happen. We have to make sure we follow facts and feeling. The amazing work that we have done that has driven the most impact for us, I'm not following just the facts. I'm following the facts and the feeling. For example, we just announced a $350 million commitment to prepare the next generation for jobs in this AI era. We have a lot of creators using our tools. Students are coming into the toughest job market. Meanwhile, trillionaires are being minted, and we're not doing enough as society to prepare them for that. That is a feeling. It's a combination of the facts and the feeling. Fortunately for me, my CEO used to be the CMO, so he totally understands what it's like to be in my chair. And so to have that conversation with him and say, we have got to do this, he was able to do that. You have to follow facts and feeling. If you are only following facts, you're going to fail. If you're only following feeling, your CFO is going to be calling you asking, show me the ROMI, show me the return on marketing investment. So follow facts and feeling.
I love it. I love it. I certainly think, we do hear a lot about art and science, at conferences, but actually I prefer the phrase facts and feelings.
It's a Dara Treseder original.
Copyright.
The AI can't tell you that.
And Sara, coming back to you. So of course, CPG is probably one of the most crowded and attention deficient environments imaginable, though you have iconic brands, right? So how do you balance that consistency for iconic brands with the need to stay culturally relevant and fresh?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is where the magic happens, where you can share stories of your iconic brands in a way that feels for the first time, in a way that feels new. I think we are stewards of these brands, and in packaged goods, the value is the brand itself. We are stewards of these brands for a moment in their very, very long lifespan. I think one of the key things is that we understand our brands, that we understand our distinctive assets, that we aren't reinventing what has taken this brand to launch, what has made it work for a very long time, but that we're allowing consumers to engage in, exactly as you talked about, that two-way conversation with our brands. So we're distinctive, we're consistent about the really core components of the brand that we need to protect and preserve forever, but that we're allowing consumers to really have fun with it in the lens that they are today. And I think in our best examples, that is something, it's something that's really enduring about a brand that feels really culturally fresh. And I think where we have done our best work, we have hit that balance perfectly.
Yeah, no, I think obviously across so many iconic brands as well, audiences really resonate and feel it. And I think, obviously a lot of the time at Influencer, we spend a lot of time thinking about creators, of course, right? Yeah. And one of my strongest beliefs are that creators are not just media placements. We had Mark Kirkham, CMO of PepsiCo earlier, literally saying creators can often be viewed as human media, but they're not just media. They are ultimately the people that understand the language, the humor, the commodities, the platform behaviors, all of the small things that really make culture tick, right? And I think in a world where we're really shaping culture, marketers still perhaps some of them misunderstand that.
Yeah.
And I'd really love from your perspective, what you think is the best way to make sure that people are building those stories that people will participate in.
Yeah, I think actually to your earlier question, starting with the consistency of the brand, I think is very important. That gives the creativity comes from discipline. Creativity comes from that consistency, but opening our brands up to the power of the creative community is phenomenal. That's one of the biggest changes. I think that we aren't storytellers, we're story builders. And I think seeing that your role is to engage creators to really create build stories with others about your brands has been one of the best thing, honestly, that can happen to brands today. You have the power of consumers building them with you. Consumers are learning about your brands, not just from a one-way conversation, but from a two-way conversation, and that becomes an incredible tool. I think the other lesson that we talk about a lot is no dead ends. And that's a very simple statement, but it really, I think, sparks creativity in the sense that one story, one interaction leads to another, which just really opens up the aperture.
I love that. So not storytellers, story builders. That's a really nice way of actually putting it, because it does encourage people to actually want to ride that wave as part of the story.
It invites, and we are writing our stories of our brands together now. So it is not just speaking to someone, it is speaking together. And that's a phenomenal opportunity in marketing.
For sure. And for everyone across this panel, if we're going to leave the audience with a few extra takeaways, obviously there have been so much brilliant wisdom that we've had so far. What do we think the biggest mindset shift required to tell people that storytelling not only captures attention, but earns that lasting cultural relevance? So perhaps, Sarah, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I'll start. So I often think I came into a performance marketing organization and introduced brand, right? So we love to talk about performance versus brand. It's all performance, right? We're all driving commercial results. But I would say brand matters more than ever. It matters for all the reasons we just spoke about: being part of culture, being part of communities, what matters to consumers, and showing up as a brand that matters to them, right? That matters even more, in the world of AI, because that's where people are discovering brands now. And guess what? Your great branded content, the communities that you're building, they're doing the hard work for you to get discovered where people are now discovering brands. So I would say forget about performance, forget about brand, forget about AI and AEO. Just think about how do you actually connect with your audience in a way that is true and real to them.
Brilliant. And Dara?
So I think that one of the things that is so lost in the world right now is truth. And I think that as a brand, you have the opportunity to not only capture attention, but really create meaning with your customers. That meaning is going to help you drive outsized growth, because your brands are going to be loyal and they're going to stick with you. So how do you tangibly do that? Opine with a spine, okay? Figure out what your values are and don't let them be optional. Don't let them be seasonal. And that means you have to have values that are core to your business. Don't pick something just because everybody else is talking about it. Don't try to just follow the trend, but pick the values that are core to your business and stick to it consistently. That is how your brand will stand the test of time, and that is how you will drive long-term growth.
Brilliant. I love that. Behnaz, for you?
Yeah, I think that with this new sort of age that we're in, we talk about how do you really cut through, and when attention is sparse, right? People are on to the next constantly, and you have great brands that are standing the test of time. Oftentimes it's one of two things, right? You need consistency over time and that clarity to really be able to cut through, so people are clear on what you stand for and how to recognize that in the sea of sameness. And one of the ways to be able to do that, I truly believe, is through the power of storytelling. People are not going to remember those facts. They're not going to remember sort of what happened. They're going to remember the stories that moved them. And they're also going to remember, it's coming back to that, the feeling. The brands that really are able to stand the test of time are the brands that have a story that has been consistently told over time, repeated by multiple people, multiple sources, and that becomes truth. And the clearer you can be about that for your brand, when there is so much going on in the marketplace and the consumer is being completely bombarded all the time with, look at this, look at this, look at me, this is important, that's important. The brands that really persevere, we are coming up on 100 years next year, are the brands that are clear, consistent, and have the ability to connect through storytelling and emotion. And I think that that will continue regardless of what technology comes our way.
I love that. And Sarah?
I think at Mars, we talk a lot about the consumer being at the heart of what we're doing. And I think having that top of mind is so important. There's incredible ways to get deep consumer insights. There's incredible sources of information about your brands. Consumers truly want to create with you, tapping these deep insights about your brands and really driving the value of our brands in a way that is iconic, in a way that spans generations, and really in a way that keeps the heart of the consumer in mind, I think is the most powerful and simple tool to great storytelling.
No, I completely agree. It's all about making sure the consumer is front of mind. And look, a huge thank you to our wonderful panelists. I personally learned a lot, so I really appreciate that. I think what we've clearly understood is that it's all about stories that are creating that trust, right? It's all about that stories that are creating those feelings. It's all about the stories that are demonstrating the facts, right? And I think, you know, if there's one thing that we need to think about is, as you quite rightly just put it, that, you know, people are not just passive audiences anymore. They're participants, and brands that get that are really the brands that will win. So please give the panelists another round of applause, and thank you very much.